This is the Orlando Sentinel editorial board interview with Ron Mueller. He is one of the two candidates for Winter Garden City Commission in District 2. And we had invited Mr. Mueller's opponent, Ileana Ramos-Jones. She is not on the call. I believe she declined the invitation. So Mr. Mueller, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Could you take a minute, please, and just introduce yourself and say what you will about your background or anything else, and then we'll ask you a few questions.
Mike, thank you so much, and thanks to Jennifer, Jay, and Scott all for being part of this and giving me this opportunity today. So Ron Mueller, and I live here in Winter Garden. I've been here for about the past 4 years, moving here in July of 2017 from St. Louis, Missouri. During my tenure here over the last nearly 4 years, I have attended every city commissioner meeting. I regularly attend the planning and zoning, DRC, code enforcement meetings, and have worked extensively with city officials on a variety of projects and events throughout the community here. I have just a passion for being involved in the community. I certainly did that where I lived before. Initially, I lived in Pacific, Missouri, and served 2 terms as an alderman or city commissioner there, a different term for the same job. And then when I moved into St. Louis proper, I worked with several city officials on various neighborhood community projects as well. So I come into this role with not only a lot of experience, but a lot of passion and a lot of work to be successful in taking on the job day one.
Okay, thank you. You said were you an elected alderman, and what was the jurisdiction?
So yes, so I was in the suburbs of St. Louis is Pacific, Missouri, PACIFIC, and I was an alderman for the 3rd Ward.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You mentioned attending all of these meetings, having covered municipal governments for a number of years, much earlier in my career. I know how grueling those are. Why did you attend all these meetings? Was it for the purpose of preparing yourself to run for this office?
It had a dual purpose. One, obviously, yes, it certainly makes it easier for me when running to understand all the issues and how city government works. I'm more vested in that, having had that experience for the last 3.5 years. The other part of it is simply being involved in the community. If you're educated about what's going on and the decisions being made, it's much easier to have a voice and react to those logically, understanding how those decisions are made as they go through various committees and departments before they get final vote.
Okay. This is a question that's usually more effective when we have both candidates here, but I'll just ask you anyway. What do you see as the key difference between yourself and your opponent in this race? What sets you all apart from each other?
Well, thank you. And that's a great question. It often gets asked is, why should I vote for you over the other person? And certainly the first thing that comes to mind is the experience I just talked about. While we're both business people our whole lives, certainly I've just talked about all the things I've been involved in. Ms. Jones is not. Until November, she had never been to a city council meeting. We live in the same neighborhood where I serve as the director of our HOA. Mrs. Jones has never attended an HOA meeting. She's never been involved in any of the activities. We just recently did several refurbishment projects, created a new park here in the neighborhood, of which, she just drove by and did nothing, where lots of neighbors volunteer for their time. There's a big difference in being involved and understanding the issues. The other part is certainly we're talking about growth. Every area in Florida is growing. Winter Garden in particular has been named one of the top 12 most desirable cities to live in America. It's a great community, and we have to be careful as we continue to grow to manage that growth and not become what we're seeing in some parts of our community, such as in Oakland and Claremont. Mrs. Jones is a developer. That's how they make their money, is through this, and she is supported by pro-development sponsors. Her brother also serves as commissioner in Oakland, and we can see what's going on there. So there is a huge difference, and I believe a conflict of interest when developers serve on the board. So that, in my experience, are certainly two key differences in understanding the issues that are coming out here and how they affect all of us.
Can you name, I'm sorry, Jennifer, were you about to ask a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question in terms of like the developments that you're talking about. You've mentioned that you're pro single family homes and not building as many apartment complex, but we know that this area is also an area where a lot of people are moving into because of prices that are maybe a little bit cheaper than the South Orlando area. I wanted to know, where do you stand then with affordable housing and creating homes for people that are looking for something more affordable in terms of what they want to pay in rent? And sometimes apartment complex is what accommodates this family's budgets.
Thank you, Jennifer. That's a great question. So let me talk about the housing first. We'll talk about the apartment second. So Winter Garden on its east side has a massive undertaking plan to redevelop a lot of the homes there that have been suffering from economic conditions for some time. The goal and the objective of that is to work with civic leaders, church leaders, and other organizations to help revitalize that. So we're bringing in money from the state, money from Orange County, putting in money here from the city to help rebuild and redevelop those communities. It's very important as we redevelop those that we don't create a situation where we're pushing out the folks that are there and then having the white movement that comes in sometimes associated with that. I don't mean to sound that way, but that is always a condition. We want to make sure that the people who are living there can continue living there and continue to thrive. We put in more homes and more businesses and stuff that grow that as a healthy community. That also includes maybe annexing some of the properties that are in there that are sitting in the county, but are actually within the city proper lines. So we want to save those areas. We're continuing that. We also have numerous areas throughout the city that have conditions for people that have economic or disproportionately affected by scales of economy. And in doing so, we want to continue to maintain those areas. I know there are developers hungry to tear them down and put in $1 million homes, but a balanced community comes from all walks of life. Winter Garden should look like the rest of America, and we need to make sure that we do that. On the field of apartment, regrettably, Dr. I'll disagree with you, and simply because what we're seeing in the trends here in some of the apartment buildings, and I just recently saw the 38 unit one that was built or going to be built on Smith Street. They're looking at, when they build these apartments, they're looking at rents between $1,500 and $2,000 a month. I don't consider that affordable at all for someone that's having economic struggles. So if the type of apartments that we're trying to build are priced so egregiously that folks can't move in, then really we're just substitute single family housing for apartment dwellings just for the benefit of the developer and not for people that are having economic difficulties.
If I can ask a follow-up on that question, because I was actually going to ask about the same topic. I think we are sympathetic to your concerns about the prices of those apartments. But I had been looking at your interview in the West Orange, in the Observer, and I think yes, beyond just high-priced ones that you've said, I will be a solid no on any future apartments and retirement centers. I want to make sure that was your take, that you are opposed to any apartments of any kind coming into the city of Winter Garden?
I am for now. I think we need to tip the pause button. Could there be a time when we reintroduce that? Yes. We went a 13-year span before a year and a half ago of not building any apartments. So we had this long strand. We have several units. Many of those are being renovated. When I checked with those, we were running at about 85% occupancy. So then there was an approval for a 250 unit complex out here on the end of Plant Street near the Turnpike. So that added a significant number of units to the area. And then, of course, they just approved the 38 units here in Smith Street. So our demand and the number of apartments we have are adequate for our current size. So as these lands become available, it's a cheap push for developers. And again, it's just right now for me, it's going to be a solid no until we see where market conditions have changed and what are the parameters for that.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned development in Oakland and Claremont, I think as examples of maybe what Winter Garden, you think Winter Garden needs to avoid. What have those two communities done by way of development that you find uh, something that the city of Winter Garden should not do?
No, that's a great question. And both these are fine cities. I don't mean to disparage the wonderful government and people that live there, and not at all. But I'm a runner. I run down the West Orange Trail. I use it often, and I certainly visit our neighboring cities for a variety of business and restaurant reasons and so forth. But what I'm seeing is more and more apartments, more and more condos, building on top of each other, and then I'm seeing housing developments where the setbacks are being removed, and the distance between two houses is becoming narrower and narrower. And likewise, the streets that are there, instead of accommodating parking on both sides and 2 lanes of traffic, well, they narrow those streets because it's more economic advantage to those developers to make a narrow street, less concrete, put a sidewalk only on one side. They start cutting those back. And as I run through, I see these happen in these communities where they're trying to get $500,000 or $750,000 for a house, and do the absolute minimum in the infrastructure. Additionally, a lot of these developers, we're seeing them out here, are building in areas where the street is just simply a 2-lane road, and they're putting large communities into there. And we're not seeing, and what I'm hearing is the developers aren't being asked to put any money into escrow to help these communities develop these streets in future state. So that means that those costs are going to land on the taxpayers when the roads need to be widened because they can't accommodate that. And that's one of the things we're already seeing in Winter Garden. As I go door to door, and I've met with literally hundreds and hundreds of people at this point, maybe 1,000, traffic, or I hear about congestion, traffic, and that's something we want to make sure it's not a theme of a problem for us. We want to be on top of that, so we need to be smarter.
Mr. Mueller, I was wondering if there was an issue that sort of pushed you over the edge into, I want to run for this office. Is it something that's been mentioned so far? Was there a particular decision that you disagreed with that made you want to run?
Jay, that's a really great question. Thank you for asking that one. There were. I think the city government is doing a great job, but I often think that we came up with a vision some years ago and haven't really altered from that vision. Somebody who works in an agile mindset means, we deliver in small increments, see how that works, and then continue building on it. So we have faster delivery. Kind of coming with these big grandiose projects that take years to deliver, and then it doesn't really meet demand is concerning. And some of those ones, when you sit in the board meetings, there's some wonderful commissioners there, but likewise, some things feel like they're rubber stamped. People come up and they speak. There's no acknowledgement to the board to what people say, and then they just simply approve or disapprove whatever they were going to do. And as voters, you don't feel listened to. And I want to make sure that that interaction is handled better. Likewise, again, just some of the growth things I've seen, again, like the apartments, about some of the buildings that are coming on, some of the folks that are pushing for that to happen is concerning. I am very happy to see that Winter Garden has the opportunity, and hopefully in the very near future, to get a boutique hotel downtown. We have a small one here with Edgewater, but we certainly need something a little larger. The placement of that, though, is troublesome. We seem to be stacking ourselves very heavily to the west end while we're beginning to develop on the east end down Dillard Street. So to me, there needs to be some logic and a push to drive out there. I like the concept, Jay, of us putting in parking garages. I think that's a smart move. I think that's the way to go. I think that's something that's always been missing in Mount Dora. But at the same time, what I hear meeting after meeting, when we build a hotel, when we build an apartment complex, when we get more businesses in, the answer from city management is always the same. Well, they can park in the garage. We don't want to build more parking. We'll just park them in the garage. Well, there's only a 3-level garage. There's only so many cars it can handle there, and that fills up pretty quickly during farmers market and during the Winter Garden Theater. So we need to start thinking about that. That cannot be the go-to answer every time. So we need to be a little smarter about that. And those are some of the things that just push me over the edge to say, I need to have a voice here and make that happen. Thanks, Jay. I appreciate that question. I really do.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned and that your opponent is being supported by, I think you might have said development interests, but correct me if I got that wrong.
Oh, yeah, I did say that.
Pardon?
I did say that, so yes.
Oh, okay, great. Who's supporting you?
So I have quite a few volunteers. There's about a dozen volunteers. I have not actually gone out and solicited specific people to endorse me. I think that's a slippery slope. I did talk to the mayor about it to some degree. Mayor really didn't want to get involved with endorsing anyone, and I appreciate that. You start getting endorsements like this, though, you create divisions in my mind. It's troublesome because either somebody likes someone or someone doesn't like someone, so now they will vote or won't vote for you just based off the other individual. I'd rather the voters get to know who I am, and we can speak at that level, and they can form their own opinion. So the fact that someone would endorse me or not is different. My concern in this area is that, you know, again, when we look at the Vanderleys and the Boyds that are standing behind this candidate, it's troublesome. The Boyds are coming up on potentially selling tens of millions of dollars worth of land. So it's certainly advantageous to them to have pro-development people on there that can benefit from this and expand, you know, the value of the property. If we soften our code enforcement rules, that allows property that may have normally been zoned for 100 homes to suddenly fit 250 homes. So clearly developers can pay more per acre to buy that same thing, and that benefits those folks that are supporting her. And that is troublesome for me. It's also troublesome, and I'm a little bit off topic to the four of you, and I apologize for this, but I think it's worth explaining, that Mrs. Jones lives in this community. She lives down the street. We never see her, but she lives here. She's never shown any interest or any knowledge of being in politics before. In fact, when she initially told us she was running for seat 2. We said, no, we actually run in districts, not seats. So it's frightening that she's being essentially pushed into running. She never expressed interest. She'd never been a participant or anything. All of a sudden, she just says it. And that's concerning. There has to be some litmus behind that, something that drives or pushes that to happen. And you look at that with some scrutiny when you see that happen. That doesn't make her a bad person. I don't want anyone to take that away in this meeting. But it certainly raises an eyebrow that someone who's shown zero interest in the city their whole life throws her name in the hat and can financially benefit from being a commissioner on the board.
Okay. Well, our time is up. We went over a little bit, but I want to thank you for participating in this and wish you and your opponent the best of luck. Thank you.